big flex, but the
Are you still trying to
company
drive
that
my
I'm
stream?
working at right
I am.
now
Can you
had our
quit
data
and
stuff.
So
Are you
someone
trying
can
to-
click on
Yes.
that and see the list of people.
Yeah.
Evo is the biggest fighting game tournament. Rushdown Revolt. Yeah, it wasn't like a main stage game, but we had like a side rack and we had a big booth there.
Good. What company is
Vortex Games.
Okay, screen sharing, and screen, boom. Okay. Yay.
It's like,
Kind of just animator.
Hey,
I
all right,
guess.
good.
The artist is
Okay, ready to go?
Yeah, we should be good.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your patience, and thank you for coming to this IGDA Ann Arbor monthly meetup. Have you all gotten pizza? Have you had a chance to get the pizza in the back? Yes? Awesome, very good. So it looks like we still have some left. Feel free to grab some more at any time. Otherwise, tonight we have a really, really cool show. Matthew Stone, who is actually one of my first students, is coming, I believe, in person. Oh, can we unlock him over there? To present on studio culture. Matthew has been at quite a few studios in his young career. He worked on Halo Infinite at 343 Industries. He worked for a little bit on Warframe in actually not that far away, London, Ontario, right? So just a few hour drive. And he's now currently at ZeniMax Online, working on the Elder Scrolls Online. And I'm sure he'll have a lot of fun stuff and fun tales to tell us, okay? However, that comes in the second hour of this meetup. In the first hour, we always do a community exhibition. We show off just cool projects that the community is working on. Every person gets 5 minutes to do whatever they want, show us whatever they want, and then we get 5 minutes to ask questions, okay? We'll do that for 5 people, and then we'll take a little break. We'll come back with Matthew, all right? Before we get to that, though, does anyone have any community announcements? Any cool stuff going on they want to talk about? No? Okay, I've got one, actually. Who has heard of the studio Gaudium? Anyone heard Gaudium? They're actually on Huron, just down the street. I believe they're Michigan's largest mobile game studio, and they are currently hiring. This is their latest project. It's called Grimlight. They were working with 8 Studio, which is a South Korean art studio, and they are looking for, let me see here, job postings. Yeah, they are looking for Unity developers. So they're offering 60 grand at a minimum. They're looking for 1 to 2 years of Unity experience, C#. I believe this is a gameplay engineering role. So you'd be working on new mechanics for the game. Oh, Matthew, I think, is right out there. He is not sure how to get in. You gotta go that way. All right, thanks for letting him in. Anyway, so if you are interested in that opportunity, or if you know someone who is, please send them to the job posting channel. And also, if you know anyone who is good at back-end game servers, they're really looking for that as well. They launched their game and they got hit so hard with traffic that they immediately crashed and had, I think, about 36 hours of maintenance before they could get the servers back up, right? It's not what you want to see, but what's amazing is that they were able to recover and the game's doing well now. And they did all of that with essentially one back-end server engineer, which is absolutely incredible. They're a really great team. So anyway, all right. So I believe we only have one last thing to do. I want to quickly get your names, and I want to get the game you're currently playing. Really quick, go.
I'm Owen, currently playing Total War Warhammer 3.
Corbin, I'm currently playing Fortnite.
Fortnite.
The Richard card game and Pokemon Go.
Excellent.
I'm Gavin. I'm currently playing Deep Rock Galactic.
Excellent.
I'm Michael, and I'm actually currently trying to think of what game to start up next.
Well, okay, what was the last game you played?
Lost Judgment.
Lost Judgment. Very cool.
I'm Jackson. I'm currently playing Ultra Kill and Overwatch.
Excellent.
I'm Pablo, and I'm currently playing Silent Hill Origins on PS2.
Awesome.
I'm Adam, and I'm currently playing Cult of the Lamb and Elder Scrolls Online.
Excellent.
I'm Josh, playing Hearthstone.
I'm Harry. I'm playing Sergeant Source.
I'm Andrew. I'm playing Splitgate.
Okay.
I'm Mason. Playing Call of Duty.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Matt.
Seth. Last thing I played was Solace Crafting, I think.
Nick, playing Black Desert Online.
Excellent.
I'm Connor, I'm playing Maya 2023.
Sam, I'm playing Minecraft.
Okay.
I'm Strider. I'm playing Guilty Gear Strive.
Excellent.
I'm Nikio, I'm playing Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Awesome.
I'm Logan. I'm currently playing Fortnite.
I'm Peter, and I don't know the title, but I'm playing some mech game on my Steam Deck.
Excellent. My name is Austin. I'm playing Catherine, a block-pushing game that was actually made a long time ago, I think.
Are you playing the latest version of it?
No, classic.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think it's available on Steam. All right.
It is. It is.
Oh, is it?
The latest version.
The latest
of it,
one?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and get to it then. So we had a bunch of presenters swap around their position, and now I'm going first this week. So there you go. All right. So Corbin, do you have the timer? I got 5 minutes.
I always have a timer ready to
All
go.
right. Excellent. I could time myself.
Any of you who can see my monitor, you don't know what's going on. We're good.
I don't.
All right. Ready?
Yeah, of course.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, my name is Austin Yarger. I teach at the University of Michigan. I teach game development, and now I teach extended reality. So this semester, in just a few days, we're launching a new course, EECS 498, Extended Reality and Society. The computer science department doesn't have a whole lot of XR-related material. There's no courses you can really take if you want to spend 4 months learning VR, AR, Unity Engine, and Unreal Engine. So this new course is meant to fill that gap. We are doing extended reality, but not for recreation or entertainment. We have a different course for that. We are doing it for some sort of social impact or entrepreneurial purpose, all right? And that's how it's going to go. On the left here, in this image, you see we have a cool facility at the university called the Visualization Studio. One of the really tough things about having a course like this is that VR and AR are still kind of fledgling technologies, which means that it can be kind of, you need specialized hardware, you need expensive headsets. In fact, I have a relatively cheap one right here. This is the Acer mixed reality headset.
Wow.
Oh, it is not very good at all, but it's what we have. So we have about 20 of these, and the students will be able to try and win an equipment lottery to get them for take-home use, so they don't have to go to this cool lab and make use of it. It's awesome, but it has some quirks and it takes time to get there. On the right here, you see a really cool use of augmented reality. This is actually Spellbound AR, a company that's just down the street. They use augmented reality to create essentially medical scavenger hunt games for children. The idea is you need to do some rehab with a child. You need to get them out of bed. Well, you put those tags you see all around the hospital, and they walk around exploring in order to find content, find little monsters which they can then train up, battle them, stuff like that. Okay? So really cool use of AR for something other than just traditional games and entertainment. Questions in 3 minutes, okay?
Oh, my bad.
All right. So this course is, this course is probably going to be pretty difficult. One of the things that I discovered was that, Unreal Engine is not very good at augmented reality. Does anyone have experience with that? Unreal Engine is very good at virtual reality. Unity is very good at augmented reality and mobile apps. So I discovered that we would have to make this a course in which you use both engines. And that's really pretty tough, unfortunately, right? But the way that this course is scheduled, and I think I can probably show you something here. Let me see, in the Game Engines lecture. Oh, I have to log in? Oh my gosh.
Steal your data.
Oh, I'm dying here. I got 2 minutes. Let's rock.
Send a push.
Oh, does anyone have a password manager?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
I need to get one.
Jeez. Your master.
all right,
password.
let's rock. Okay, and then the third layer.
Oh God.
We're speedrunning this. My phone's gonna die. All right. Okay. So one of the really cool things, and one of the reasons I think this course will be possible, is that let me see here. Is that these engines really do have a lot of similarities. Who knows Unreal in here? Awesome. Who knows Unity in here? Right. So Unreal and Unity, right, they are both different tools, but they both have the same objective, right, to help you make realities. And because of that shared objective, these engines are going to share a lot of things, right? They're going to share their UI, for instance. All right, you've got an image of You've got an image of Unity here, right? You've got an image of Unreal. And while a lot of this UI may seem pretty complicated and blinding at first, they really are very similar. And I think we can actually transform one into the other. Let me see here. I think I have a GIF in here where I literally do that. Oh yeah, here we go. So we're transforming the Unity editor into the Unreal one right now. Boom, there we go. On the bottom, you have all of your content, all of your files. On the right, you have an inspector where you edit the things in your world. And of course, in the center, you have the viewport that lets you look into and manage and move around things in the world. Here, we are going to transform Unreal, right? Assets on the bottom, inspection on the right. We're going to transform this into Unity. Right? So bring it over here, viewport in the center. You've got your inspector with all your components right over here, your hierarchy right here, your project assets right here, okay? Oh, okay, and I'm out of time.
Already?
The general takeaway with this course, though, is that I'm really happy that the university will have the ability to teach Unreal. And I think that despite the challenges, it will be possible to teach both engines by focusing on kind of a high-level question of what are game engines, what are they all going to have, what are they all going to need to do, right? Anyway, questions while I show you other stuff. Yes?
How do we sign up to be involved in these classes?
Yes, so it depends on your involvement. Do you want to take the course as a student? Do you want to just hang out in the course? Do you want to teach the course?
I'm definitely interested in taking it as a student.
Okay, are you a U of M student?
No.
Okay, so that's a good start. Go to U of M's admissions page. If you want to take my courses, you'll want to be in the computer science department. You can do that either through the LS&A College, the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, or through the College of Engineering. Both paths will work. And that's how you do that. I'll see you in 4 years. Any questions? Yes.
What do you think are like? Do you think there are a lot of therapeutic benefits to using VR and AR and things that we haven't seen yet?
All right. Well, okay. At the start of every lecture, by the way, the first time you teach a course, it's very difficult to teach that course because it takes forever to create lecture content. It probably takes me about 15 hours or so to create a lecture. And that's thinking up the idea for the lecture. That is gathering the material for the lecture, deciding what the story and route through that content will be to make the most sense, be important, right? How you will hook students by showing them something interesting at the beginning and then taking them through what they need to know. That takes a long time, and so lectures will often find ways to eat that time up, right? Consume that time. In games, it's called padding. In academia, it's called film day, right here. So at the top of each lecture, we have these companies that we study. We study 2 every single lecture. The first, lecture 2 here has a company called HoloRide and a company called Vicarious Surgical. Tell me when I have 90 seconds, Corbin.
Gotcha.
HoloRide is a heck of a company here. This uses VR and AR. The problem here is that, aren't car rides boring? You know, car rides are so boring, I wish I had something to entertain me during a car ride. This is a pretty novel problem, right? No one's really solved it yet. And so here's how it works.
No audio.
Oh, I can't play audio. Okay, so we're bored in the back. I hate when I'm bored in the back of a car. What am I gonna do? I got nothing to do. What is this? I'm gonna put on a VR headset in the back of my car. And oh my God, I can now see this world, this fantasy world I'm driving through. Yep. There you go, right?
You know, that reminds me. Some roller coasters and theme parks actually let you use VR, let you wear VR stuff while you're riding them.
Nice. So here's an example of, I think, a company that does not have a very good case on its hands. But it still made way more money, I think, than anyone in town. Let me see. They are based in Munich, Germany. They've got $12 million on their
funding.
hands. Okay? And like personally, I think this company's in trouble. It doesn't have a whole lot of social impact. The idea is to keep you, entertained or learning in a car, but it's kind of like they forgot the phone exists at all. And so I'm not really sure what they're doing. Your question was, have you noticed any impactful uses?
60 seconds.
Have you noticed any impactful uses of AR? And definitely I have, and I featured it on that syllabus you saw, right? Right? So a good one there, Spellbound. The idea is we need some way to get kids out of the bed and doing physical stuff. We can't really do that with just a traditional like Game Boy, right? We need something that will force you to move around. So the geolocation and the mapping of your phone is a huge part of that, right? They augment your reality to get you moving around in a way that previous devices kind of couldn't really track. And so that's a pretty good use of augmented reality, I think. Yes?
You think something like the Kinect would also be a good thing for that kind of purpose?
Yeah, the Kinect is dead. It's very dead.
I will something like it.
Yeah, I think Kinect is pretty interesting. And it's something we'll probably talk about in the course, why it didn't succeed. I know one of them had to do with privacy. It creeped a lot of people out. And I also think, thank you, Corbin, that like a lot of the people that play on Xbox aren't really looking for that kind of thing. They kind of sold really cool technology to the wrong audience, I feel like. But anyway, XR is a really diverse kind of field, and it's moving very quickly. I'm happy to be able to provide a course like this, and I really want your feedback on this topic, because this is the first time we're teaching it, and oh my gosh, this course is going to change a ton in the next 4 months. So thank you so much. Yes?
Yeah, I just comment on it, really. I really love that you guys are including both Unity and Unreal. Being engine agnostic is such a huge thing for students, and something I know they struggle a lot with going into the industry.
Oh my gosh, have you seen all of the wonderful opportunities available on like Indeed?
Yeah.
You go to Indeed, you go to Monster, you'll find tons of opportunities for Unity and Unreal. If you happen to know both, you're in business, okay? All right, Peter, are you ready?
I can't connect to the network. I can present locally only.
So keep trying. Jeremy, are you ready to present?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Come on up.
Real quick. Getting enough signal for the hotspot.
So the 18
do you have the password?
is that really the whole password?
Yes.
Oh, that's fine. Yep.
Yeah, just literally all of it.
Okay.
You want plugged in still?
Yeah.
All right, gotcha. All right, and where is the? You see my cable?
Share your screen on Discord.
Oh, right, yeah.
There it is.
All right.
We have a roundabout method.
All right, let me know when you're ready to go. I'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay. Oh, wait. You have.
There we go.
All right. Let's see if this works.
Boom.
Cool. Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremy, and I'm going to share something with you now, which I guess will go into Code Club. There we go. Yay, Code Club. All right. Cool. Let's upload a file. You don't need to do this with me, obviously. I just wanted to. There we go. All right. I'll find it later. I don't remember where I put it. Yeah, I totally remember where I put it. All right. Great. So anyway, here this is a completely empty project except for 2 things. One is TextMesh Pro, which you all know and love, and the other is this thing called Naughty Attributes. Who's heard of Naughty Attributes? It's terribly named. Yes.
Yes, I've heard of it.
What is it?
It's a bunch of attributes that do stuff like you can have a string field, but it's only scenes and things like that.
Yeah, and it's awesome. It's basically Odin Inspector, except you don't have to pay for it. It does a lot of really cool stuff. Good. This remembered where the package was that I was trying to upload. So what I'm showing today is this thing called XN Bug Reporter, and it's built into a game that I showed last week. I forgot to delete the sample scene. That's fine. We'll just import it. It's going to probably complain because I turned the sample scene into the new scene that I had, and sometimes if you convert the sample scene and then import it, it gets pissy. But it didn't. Yay! All right. So what this is something to allow you to put bug reports into your games and have them report directly to a Google Sheet, and it just kind of happens for you. I put this together for a game I was working on, and 90% of this work is stuff that I found and pieced together and bodged together. It's not like my original work, but I'm pretty happy with the results. So let's pop open this README, and I'm trying to be fast. All right. Come on, Visual Studio. It's not that hard. It's text. Okay.
Were you tracking time?
All right, cool.
I am. Okay.
So you do have to install an audio attributes for like the fancy buttons to work and stuff. Right here, if you need to allow iOS players to actually use their keypad to key in text into a text field, this guy or gal, Kyo Young, has a GitHub project that I highly, highly recommend that just works. You just drop it on a text field and it works. It's awesome. I included a couple of fonts, but as it kind of says here, the main instructions are in the XN Bug Reporter file. So let's go ahead and pop that open. So here in scripts and plugins, we've got this XN Bug Reporter. And if you scroll down, it has this whole chunk of text here that it turns out you don't actually need. Because if I click on this, let me make sure I've got my, that personality forward so that it's not the creator. So I control click in Visual Studio and it pops open this XN Bug Reporter template. XN just stands for X Ninja, my company. And I can't, it's view only, but what I can do is make a copy. And it says, whoa, 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 there's also this creepy script here. That's what you want. You want the creepy script. All right. So we got this XN Bug Reporter demo at IGDA 2. All right. And we'll make a copy. Now this is copying both that just basic template. Now one thing I dislike, oh no, it did work. Good. Okay, cool. So I have various bug statuses here, and they should have like conditional formatting on them. So that should work. But let's go into that script. So we go into the app script here. And you'll see here there's just a series of instructions. And we've now gotten past several of them. So number 5, cut and paste the script. You don't need to do that. Number 6, set the function to be run to setup. So what this setup does is it just
45 seconds.
God damn it. It just sets a global variable to be the ID of this database that it's attached to. And it also asks you to give it permissions. So you need to tell it you're running it as you, and to allow it to do nasty things to all your stuff. I don't know how to limit it any more than that. All right, so now we're going to deploy it. So I'm going to click deploy and do a new deployment. This is all in the instructions. Whatever. All right, but the key is that you run it as you, and anyone can access it. That allows it to be called as a post from somewhere on the web. Then you copy this guy and click done, and now we go back to Unity here, and we'll open up the Bug Reporter example project. And here in the canvas is this bug report panel, which down here you must place this URL with the URL. So we'll save the scene, and then we press play, and there are things that are happening. All right. Okay, cool. So now here, let's go to maximize this, and we'll click this little bug, and this is a test, and I'm like, Jeremy, and I'm like, whatevs at somewhere, and this is a test. And then I click submit, and this hopefully will work. Yay, it did. All right. So now if we go back to here And look, you can see that it brought it in with a timestamp, gave it a new status as a bug, and it added all these columns, which means all you have to do is create new columns in your form, and it will just add them to it.
All right, and time.
There you go. All right. Yeah.
5 minutes for questions.
Sure. Yes.
So the web app was something that you wrote or that you downloaded from somewhere?
I pulled from somewhere and modified.
What was the name of it?
I have a link in the web app that links to the original one.
Okay.
Yeah, so right here it's Google Sheets as a database insert with app script using PostGet methods with Ajax example.
Okay.
Yeah, but well, yeah, anything I pulled from somebody else, I listed. It looks like originally it was from Will Patera. Yeah.
It's been modified since.
Yep.
Sweet.
The main modification I did was I made it a post-it instead of a GIF.
Yeah.
And I made it to where you could throw anything at it that you put into the www form in Unity, and it would create a column for it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So, question. I know you talked a lot about WebGL. Does this work with just standard mobile too?
It should work with anything.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it should work with anything. It's just a simple HTTP post.
Where they come.
And internally, I mean, you can kind of look at, obviously you'll have the scripts, you can look at it,
Yeah.
but the bug reporter here that does it, it literally just is like, hey, here's a post, and then it sends in a www form, which is a Unity thing that you just say, here's a property and here's the data for it.
Sweet.
Theoretically, you could send an image, but I have no idea how that would work. Yeah, so, yeah.
You, I believe you said this was an open source project, right?
Well, I'm giving it away, yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. Did you made this?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry. Very cool.
So, yes.
Do you have any plans for future features?
I mean, sure, if you want to ask me for some future features, yeah.
Okay.
Sure, I mean, this is what I needed for what I was doing. I've been trying to make more things that I'm creating tools and then give them to people because, you know, there's no reason for this stuff to stay just with me. This is how the www form works right here. You can see that it's really basic. You just say, hey, here's a new form, and you add a field and then put text into the field.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yes?
If someone like de-inspired your app to be able to like get access to the whole doc or not? Like, yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it's just an app script that responds to a post.
Yeah.
I don't think that, like, Google Apps, like, I don't think that something like SQL injection or something is a problem with Google Apps.
Okay.
And the only thing, like, yeah, I don't think there's anything they could really do with it.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not a security expert
Yeah.
at all, right? Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool. Yes?
Have you thought at all about distributing this on the Unity Asset Store?
Yeah, I considered it. Like, I figured I'd give it to y'all and my students and see what a headache that was before trying to give it to the rest of the world.
We'll put it in 4 things next week.
Yeah.
And bug testers for the bug test.
Yeah. The other thing here, just so you know, I included a few other things in here. One thing that's kind of cool is in this bug report panel, I was having trouble with tabbing between elements working properly. So I created this thing that this is one of the things that Naughty Atreides does is it gives you the ability to click a button in the editor and have it do something. So what this is going to do is it's going to pull all of the possible elements in this bug report panel here that I could tab between, and then I can put them in order and say, yeah, I don't really want the cancel button to be tabbable. And then I can tab between them when I'm working in the interface, you know. There's also something where there's this thing called XN pointer over UI, because the Unity thing to ask if the pointer's over a UI element in the canvas is broken for some reason. So I wrote this one that goes and just looks to see if there's something over your canvas. And that way you can check it and not allow the elements in your game that are past the canvas to be clickable when that number is something else. So like here, you can see that it's like the number is 0, and then when I move over things, it tells me how many things are stacked on top of each other there.
That's cool.
And all you have to do to make it something that shows up in that list is make it a raycast target. So when the raycast is done, it hits it. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff in there. I tried to document it, but yeah.
Do we need naughty attributes for more than just that find child aspect of the plugin?
It'll complain about a couple of things.
Okay.
I think that might be the only thing.
That's like the major one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but it's such a useful package. I kind of wanted to promote it anyway.
Fair enough.
So, and there's like a couple of cool fonts in here too. Like And plus 1M is a really good font. I absolutely love it. For teaching, it's narrower by about 30% than other monospace fonts, so you can fit more on your slide.
Huh.
So that's really useful. That Marcus Darden told me about it. All right. Unless y'all have anything else, I am done with
Any final questions? All right, Jeremy, thank you
I'll
so
throw it
much.
up in code club. All right. Thank you. Oh, I got one more thing. This Saturday, there's that like clued up Ann Arbor, Alice in Wonderland thing where you run around with a group of people in a cell phone and solve puzzles. So like my family totally can't come. If you want to hang out with me and do that, I'll put it in the chat on IGDA and let me know. It's supposed to be like 6 people per ticket or whatever.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Can you
Omar.
share how to credit you in the
Omar,
code club?
are you here?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Please, thank you.
Is Omar in the house? Is Omar?
Yes, I am.
Oh,
Ooh, virtual.
yes, virtual. All right.
All right.
And he has a song.
He has a song too.
Can he email you the song?
You, hey Omar. So
Yeah?
I broke
Hear me?
everything, and the TV doesn't work for audio in here right now. Could you do me a huge favor and email me the song? Actually, you know what? No. If he plays it, it'll come through my laptop really loud.
All right.
All right.
You don't have to hold your laptop in front of you.
Oh.
Why doesn't he email? We'll go to the next person. He emails you the song. We
Yeah.
play it, and we get his thoughts.
Where, how are we gonna play it any different than it playing through my laptop?
You can play audio through the TVs, right?
No, that's the problem.
Oh, I can do that. Have him email me.
Cool. Hey Omar, can you DM Austin
Nikhil, you ready to go?
Yes.
your song, and then when you present after Nikhil, we'll play it really loud for everybody here while you play it on stream. Cool?
I can do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thanks for being flexible. I broke everything, and I don't know how. It's my general rule of thumb.
Joining it now.
Hmm?
Oh, I'm joining
Can
the
you mute yourself?
Sure. Okay, is that better?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay. 5 minutes, ready to go?
Stop watching Jeremy.
Hold on. Ready.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I still broadcasting?
All right.
Okay.
3,
Boom.
2, 1, go.
Hey everybody, I'm Nikhil. I am the programming lead on the Wolverine Soft Studio. I'm here to talk about Wolverine Soft Studio. So first things first, applications for the fall are open. They close September 10th. This is a great opportunity if you're a University of Michigan student. While we do accept others, we don't pay, so we don't recommend it if you're not a student. But now on to the cool stuff. So this summer, we've been working on a bunch of really cool stuff. Our main project is tentatively titled Project Light. It is a case study of FTL, Fast and Light. If you don't know, it's a game Logan likes. It's basically a spaceship real-time strategy game in which you fight across a hostile space to do something. And it was a great case study for us, first time doing a strategy game. And since we've been recruiting from the School of Information a lot, it's a lot of UI and UX, and that leads into a lot of our talents in studio. So we've just spent the summer creating a fleshed out prototype rather than trying to do it all in 2 weeks on sleep deprivation. We do it over 10 weeks with full studio, which means our code quality is a lot better, and it means that we can go a bit slower and take more time to make our decisions. For instance, our decision about what theme we're going to do, like whether you'll be a spaceship or a submarine or a pirate ship, that used to be done in 1 week because we just didn't have the time for more. Now we break things up into 2 semesters. We can spend 4 or 5 weeks on this important decision. We've created lots of documentation on our code so that when we hand it off from the first team to the second team, they know exactly what to do with it, and that's been really useful. In addition, the big thing I wanted to announce here is that we have the ability to publish on Steam. This was
Well done.
Yes. To this day, I still don't understand how a student organization got this. I believe we're the only ones to have ever got this as a student organization. But however we did it, we did it. And the first game we are publishing is Bloom Roots of Renewal. That is a game we created in December. It's a first-person shooter, basically Quake Hexen, but set in the garden. It's a really good game. It's coming out September 27th. I'll send a link to the Steam page soon, but if you Google Bloom Roots Renewal, you can find it pretty easily. So give it a wish list. If you didn't work on it, play it, give it a review. And if you did work on it, then just play it and be happy that it's getting reviewed. Some new features include achievements and stats. You're going to have rich presence. You can save on the remote cloud. Lots of new accessibility settings to make this more accessible. Full controller support. You can have multiple save slots now and a level select screen, and lots of bug fixes and tweaks. In addition, we have Steam, and that took a long time to get, so we're going to use it to the fullest potential we can. But one of the nice things about Steam is that they have a networking library for peer-to-peer networking, and we thought to ourselves, what better way to use Steam than to try and make a peer-to-peer networking game. So in December 2021, we released Ragnarok TD, which is a case study of Bloom's TD6. It's a pretty fun game set in Norse mythology, and it's great, but
60 seconds.
Okay, thank you. It's great, but it's only single player. And that made lots of people sad. So I figured, what if we added multiplayer to this game through the Steam's networking library, which works well for us because it's peer-to-peer, no server, and our initial tests seem positive. It's a very experimental project. We're hoping this goes well. In addition, we got lots of organization development stuff. We've had a big documentation push over the past summer to get all of our studio processes documented, because we exchange leaders like every 1.5 years. So we need to get these things documented, because that's the main way our studio survives. And we also have these things called leadership trainings, which is a Google form. Basically, you have this quiz based on all the documentation. So this forces you to know that the documentation exists, forces you to read it, and learn our studio processes.
All
That's
right,
it.
that's time. Thank you, Nikhil. Okay. 5 minutes for questions. Questions?
Question over here.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, okay, so the current project is, you said, between the 2 semesters that you're working on?
Yes, that's one of the 2.
Okay. All these new changes and Steam pushes, is it something that you do simultaneously while working on this new project?
Yes, so I wasn't on the first semester of this project. I was working on the Steam changes for this, and they got done earlier than I expected, so now I'm on the second semester of this project. And our tower defense multiplayer thing is happening at the same time. So we have 2 projects at once.
Alright, so because it's a student organization, I assume you can't sell the games on Steam for money, or if you do, you have to give that money to a U of M?
Yeah, we just decided there are so many complications with money that we're just not going to deal with it.
Very cool.
Yeah, fortunately we get donations from lots of great companies in the area, so we have that going for us. Yeah, in the back. All right.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay. How big's your team?
This team is 25 people for the second semester, 12 for the first. This one for our first Steam release is just 3, me, Logan, and Devin, who's not here. And then our tower defense multiplayer thing is a team of around 10 to 12. So all in all, about 35 to 40, yeah.
So you said that you don't recommend that non-U of M people participate, but in the past, you have had quite a few do that.
Yeah.
So why do you think that people do like to participate after they've graduated? Or,
I think the biggest one is that they realize that they want to get into the games industry after they graduate. And if you are like that, then I think this is a great fit. But we sometimes run into issues where people think they're going to get money, and then during the interview process, we have to tell them, you're not getting money. So people, yeah.
So just to clarify, I got 2 questions, one from Discord and one to clarify.
Okay.
It is open to students of other universities to join as well?
Yes.
Awesome. That's really great to hear. And then the question from Discord was, what sort of elements were inspired by Hexen in Bloom?
I think the biggest ones were the variety of enemies. We have we based this off of this was an expansion to a game that we released in a year and a half ago, and that version of the game did not have a lot of good intentional enemy design. So we completely overhauled how our enemies worked. I don't remember the specifics exactly, but the enemies force you to do different things, like you have unique combinations of enemies that shoot at you, enemies that poison you, etc. And that leads to a lot more depth than the previous version of this game offered. And that was a fun thing for the team to get access.
Awesome.
What was your question, Corbin? You said you had two?
Yeah, that was the second question.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
Okay. Yeah.
Are applications open for like artists, and like does it also provide opportunities to like learn software from other like people who are already on the team?
So it is open for all departments. So I'll go back to the application. We have I can't really see, but we have 5 departments. Art, which is 2D vector art and sprites. Programming, which is Unity C#. Audio, which is audio. You make sound effects and music and dialogue. Game design, which focuses a lot more on UI due to the nature of this project, but you have a bit of everything else. And then operations, which is marketing and production. We're hiring, or we're recruiting a few producers and a few marketing people to take our marketing game to the next level. Yep. Oh, yeah,
Me?
Carter.
Oh, can you really briefly show us like the Wolverinesoft itch.io page of the previous projects?
Sure.
And can you make sure to share this application in the general chat on
Yes.
Discord?
I definitely will once I'm done here.
Awesome, thank you.
So this is our
That's
itch page.
awesome.
Yeah, it's really nice. We've had a bunch of really unique genres over the years. We've had everything from first-person shooters to tower defense games, to top-down shooters, all sorts of great stuff. And these work really well as portfolio pieces for students, because when recruiters see this and see these games on your portfolio page with professional art and really polished design and polished elements, that elevates your portfolio to a whole new level.
Excellent. Thank you, Nikhil. Okay, next up we have Omar with some audio, some music that he would like to show off. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to play the music. And should I share my screen through Discord or just plug in directly to my own?
So we're going to break everything.
All right.
The moment we unplug this, it's going to break a lot of things.
Okay.
But if we want audio through the TVs, we need to break a few things.
Probably should.
Probably break some
We
things.
can fix it back up when the next person is coming. All right.
Real quick, make sure to start on like a lower end, because the song kind of has like a loud bass at the beginning. So don't like
Oh, sorry.
start like with like a loud bass. You know what I mean?
I do. So, yeah. He's saying start the volume on a lower end. And
Okay.
then
Oh, it's going to be a loud one?
it is.
Okay.
So it starts loud.
Please share through Discord as well so that the live stream doesn't lose you.
Okay. Application. Heyo. There we are.
Oh, I'm still sharing. My bad.
Okay. 2 minutes and 39 seconds. So we can listen to it almost twice. Okay. Ready to go?
Sure.
So what you guys thought?
That was awesome. Well done.
Thank you.
Omar, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you have any comments you'd like to make before we begin questions?
Oh Jesus.
In terms of comments, the main for this song, I wanted to get like sort of like a Genesis like stage theme going on, like Streets of Rage 2. So that's just the kind of sound I was going for through the song. Other than that, I have no comments.
Excellent. All right, so we've got 5 minutes for questions.
How do you start off making a song? Like, do you already have a beat in your head, or do you just try to put something together on the software and then see where it goes from there?
So when I make a song, the first thing I like to do is like to think about it. I like to have like some song, sort of like a reference. Let me know where I'm going the right direction. Like, oh, how sort of like the lead should be. Oh, this song, I like it. I'm gonna copy how that song does it, right? In terms of when I start writing it out, I will typically write the drums and bass for each section first. Write that section first.
Okay, question?
I'll typically write the drums and bass first. I get that, right? Because that'd be my foundation, right? And then the lead melody, right? The melody for it. And then finally, the other elements, like the strings or the brass. So hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, questions?
So I did want to say I really like how the track goes with how the energy is. It has a very solid melody to it, and I think it gives like a nice visualization of like you're racing down the highway and like the melody is the lights and such. I would say my only thing is I kind of wanted more drums on the lower end, even if it's like maybe it's just another of the beat pattern at a lower octave. I think to give kind of, since we're just going off of the cover art with like the neon electric city, having a kind of a underbelly with deeper drums, I think would give more depth to it.
Thank you.
I don't know where the cover art came from.
The cover art, I basically looked up like neon city, alright, and then I just slapped it on there for the cover. I'm not sure if it's professional, but it works.
I just wanted more of a comment and a sort of question. When I listened to this, my brain, if you told me this was an existing Streets of Rage song, I would have believed you. So you hit that reference like nail on the head. Do you have any intention of like a place and means to use this, or is this kind of like a fun project, like style study type thing?
My goal is right now I'm working on an album of sorts, right? And for that, right? And I plan on adapting this track to fit within the album. It'll be a synthwave / chiptone style album. I plan on including this track as sort of like the intro, or like the first song.
Questions? Josh?
So, the only reason I want to mention is because it's something you may not be able to observe yourself. As after the song started playing, Austin adjusted the volume a few different times. When I heard it, like one thing that really jumped out to me is the sound or the level balance, like the volume differences in different sounds it felt pretty sharp. And so I just wanted to mention that. I like the song a lot. It definitely, I'm also a big fan of Shadowrun, and I definitely think of Shadowrun with this. It comes from that same kind of period.
Questions?
I was just curious what music program you used, and if it's like a royalty-free one, what sounds you might have downloaded to get that sort of like Genesis sheet.
I use Reaper for the DAW, and then for the drums I use Power Drums 2. And then for the actual like the synths themselves, it was a mix between the Dex, which is a free EX7 like implementation VST, as well as a bunch of Genesis sound fonts. So I use a lot of like actual instruments from like the Sega Genesis. Sega Genesis and like Sonic the Hedgehog. Anyways.
Excellent. Omar,
Thanks.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Peter.
Can you give me back that thing so that I can stop breaking everything?
Yes.
Everything's broken.
Good luck.
Thank you. Everybody on Twitch, thank you for being patient and staring into the void with me.
All right, so I want to be on Discord,
sharing your screen
with my
mic off. With your mic off, yes, perfect.
I'll need permission to stream into the channel.
Austin, can you give him permissions as a presenter,
Yeah,
please?
sure.
Thank you. While I try to fix the stuff I broke. it's
There you go.
broken.
Go for it.
And do the whole screen.
Okay, give me just a second.
Yep. So I've seen a number of you in May and last month, and it's weird not bringing a whole bunch of hardware here,
Right?
You know, not having the unicycle thing. I have the parts to make the next version, so maybe next month. But this month, no.
We are all good again.
All right. So this month, I am here to talk about my master's project at MSU, which I'm calling, for now at least, ROV Sim. So I'm Peter Gunther. I am a data engineer by day, working on learning analytics for a company out in Nashville called Watershed. I do have a previous master's in instructional technology. I've worked as high school teacher or boot camp instructor for a number of years, but I'm currently in the MA program in game studies and design at MSU. And Jeremy is one of my advisors on this project, and I'm also a FIRST robotics coach and now mentor. But you know, one of the fun things I do with the students is every year we do a different arcade console to control the robot. And that ties in here because FIRST robotics can be crazy expensive. It is honestly $20,000 to $30,000 to field a good team for one season. That's what you're spending in a season. That's not counting what you've put in past years to get, you know, and you can do it for cheaper. There are teams that'll do it for $5,000. Obviously, there's lots of, you know, funding, but that's really expensive. It is not open to, you know, to every school, to every student. And so there is this other form of robotics or STEM, not technically robots, but these underwater ROVs. In Michigan, we've got an organization called Square One Education Network, and they provide free teacher training and lots of grants for schools to be able to do this. Nationally and internationally, there's a couple organizations called Sea Perch and MATE. And so I have a local copy of this because I knew that would happen. So here is a GoPro mounted on one of these ROVs. I just have about 30 seconds to show. This is from one we built at a teacher training about 7 years ago. And so this is just, you can't really see, if I didn't have this thing showing, you can just see a little bit of a hook there. But it's picking up those rings and bringing them up. It is not a robot, it is remote controlled. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that I'm looking to capture here. Okay, but I've got a couple audiences. One is students before the season starts. So students who are on a team, but how do we get them to practice? How do we get them to learn more outside of the season when they're not in the lab? But then also students without a team how do we get them designing, iterating, and piloting one of these vehicles? So, this is why I'm sharing the screen and not a single. So menu I'm still working on, but so at the lower levels, these things are built with PVC. And so the first thing I was working on this summer is a builder where you can design and build your ROV. And one of the problems that I faced was, 3 degrees, how do you, how three axes, how do you get people to rotate stuff? So everything is based around the node you built on. And so your rotation options are all around that. So I don't have to give people options to mess with 3 dimensions. They're messing basically with 1. And the T presents a little bit more of a problem because it can connect a couple different ways. All right, so that's the builder. It is loading and saving in the player prefs. And a little bit of camera fanciness here, just got the sliders working. All right, I could hit go, and, well, I'll hit go, I'll be brave. Let's see if this actually works. Okay, it is. So I am actually piloting the ROV I just loaded there. And so on this level, the goal is just to trigger some different gates. You can see they're detecting. In reality, these things have a tether attached. Tether ended up being pushed back as a very difficult thing to work on. And so this is an unrealistic challenge in the real world. You would not be able to go through all these gates. You'd get totally tangled up. You might get 4 gates. But there has to be challenge for students trying this out, before I get.
30 seconds.
So, actually, I'll leave it here rather than showing another level. So it's meant to be realistic without being super, super accurate. Like, I am not going to guarantee to a student their real life ROV is going to perform this way. More, the focus is this iteration process. Like, take it into the pool, try it out, see how it works, and if you don't like it, go back to the lab, go ahead and reload it, and make your changes.
All right, time. Well done.
Awesome.
Like, my immediate comment is that this looks like the kind of software like the Lego company would pay millions of dollars to have built. Like, this is super cool. Well done.
Thanks. Oh yeah. When Steve from LTU was here in May, we were talking about it, and he said, so basically it's Kerbal Space Program underwater. And I said, yes, that is exactly it.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts with the vehicle creator of that game. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to look at that creator. I looked at a few different ones, but not that one.
Do you think there would be a benefit to having a option to switch the camera? Or I guess I understand the camera view is based on what the actual thing, but just to see how it's fitting through the
Absolutely.
third person.
Great question.
Yeah.
So the question was, is there a benefit to being able to switch to a third-person camera? Whereas this obviously, in the competitions, the student has to have their back to the pool. They cannot see the ROV. So I think at some point there's going to be a mode where you're choosing, is this competition mode where you're limited in that, or, for earlier on, for getting a sense of what's actually happening? Why am I turning that way? It would be super helpful to get that third-person camera. So I have a bit of a following camera in there, but that's going to need more work. Yeah, great question. Definite value there. Yeah.
I have an idea that I just thought of, as you said, to have a separate tournament mode. So if I say in the practice mode, not have the water filter on the first-person camera so people can see more clearly.
Fair. Fair. If you look on itch, there is a build from earlier this summer. On Windows, it doesn't render right. And I thought, well, that's really weird, and it worked before. And I thought, must be something about the fog. But actually, I'm using a third-party asset now for the camera, and it's also doing a bit of a distort. And I woke up this morning, besides working on this last night and thinking, all this stuff worked a week ago. How come it's not working now? I woke up this morning and thought, I bet it's the distort, not the fog. So I will be getting new builds out, Windows, Mac, and Windows, Mac, and WebGL. WebGL obviously being limited. So one of the ways you can help is in a few weeks checking out those builds. giving me feedback, especially bug reports and stuff, but always open to ideas. Jeremy?
Yeah, so when you're tuning cars in like Forza Horizon and games like that, you can enter a mode that sort of gives you some information about like telemetry on the car, like is it torquing when you're trying to go forward and stuff like that. Obviously, the students wouldn't have that in real life, but is that a kind of thing that might be helpful to them?
That's the kind of thing that I'm, yeah, I suppose, for instance, if you put your motors really high, it might be twisting you, downward. So yeah,
maybe
that's
a visualizer for just the torque that's applied by each motor to, so they could balance the torque visually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great thought. One of the parts that is not built yet is the balancing. Okay, so right now I built the ROV and I dropped it in the pool and it worked, but the floats were put on automatically. And they worked because that was one I had, I loaded one where it was balanced for those. The student is going to have to do a process of adding those floats and balancing them out, and that they will see in a third-person view, like in a tank in the lab. And so that could fit in there too. Like we could, they could just get some data about, or they could just see how it's doing too. Try. The other part is wiring the thrusters, and when why is it doing that? Oh, because you've got that switch hooked up to the wrong thruster. So that's valuable too. Yeah, great thoughts.
I apologize if I missed the context, but what is the context of this project? Is it a student project? Is it something you want to turn into a company?
Sure. Right. Yeah. Context in that sense. I don't know. The context is I want to get my master's degree.
Okay.
And I took Casey's Design Studio last fall. And there we worked on 3 different projects, and this is the one I said, coming out of it, like, hey, this is the one I want to keep building. So that's the immediate context. Long term, I would see this potentially being like an iOS app. I think that could be a good fit for the build and everything. So for testing and everything, I'm putting in front of students, especially through WebGL. But eventually, I could see it living on iOS, and I could see myself, taking it somewhere. Yeah.
Like you said, you made this for First Robotics, right?
For these other robotics competitions.
Do you know if they have any funding to make those kinds of purchases?
Square One's pretty small and local. Yeah. I doubt they do. C-Perch is very hard to nail down. I reached out to Mate, and it turned out they have an app that they paid a community college. They have a game they paid a community college to develop. Mine's already way better. I will say that. Oh, yeah, you recorded. But yeah, as I get, I'll be showing this at Meaningful Play at MSU in October. Sweet. So I want to get as much polish as possible. This is not going to be done until the end of next summer. I have multiple semesters where it's gradually being developed, and so I want to get in front of them and at least see if they volunteer or ask them that question.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. First one is how much information are you going to sort of have correlate? So I don't know too much about underwater ROVs, but is there like a weight limit? Are you going to implement that, like say, for this sort of competition, you have X as many parts?
Yeah, great question. There is not a weight limit other than the fact you're supposed to get to neutral buoyancy, and so you make it too heavy, that's a problem. I'm actually using my own builder to make the props that are being used, like those gates and stuff. I actually built with this rather than putting them together in Unity. And so right now I have this crazy part limit, but I do want to take this down. The competition doesn't have a part limit, but most coaches are going to. Like the Oak Park middle school science teacher, he's got, his entire class is made up of teams. He's not going to be able to give 50 of each of these connectors to every team. So I am going to take that back to a realistic limit, and that is part of the constraint. Like you've got a certain amount of pipe you can use, you've got a certain number of these connectors, and you will be limited to 4 thrusters. Eventually, there might be a 6th thruster mode, but 4 for now. Yeah.
Other question. When are you going to add a
Final
for the Nintendo 64?
I will have to look at that.
All right. So if you have any more questions for the speakers, go in and say hi to them. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you all.
All right. So we're going to take about 10 minutes. Please meet the person next to you, find out what they're up to. If you have further questions for a speaker, find them. Ask them questions. Ask them on the Discord if you want to. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Grab some pizza, and then we'll hear about Elder Scrolls, okay?
Yeah.
Let's go legal.
Let's go legal. I don't know.
One thing that I forgot to do when I was there last time was get access to the
Discord? You can do that.
How's it going, man? Pretty good, dude. What's up?
I owe you a response. Sure as shit. Watch this. Yep, I owe you a response, don't I? I looked at that today and I was like, I have a backlog. And then I was like, oh no, it's okay. Rayanne doesn't know this, but I have yet to read the messages they sent me. And I'm kind of scared to at this point. Because I think last time she said she was sending me an invite to an event, and I haven't read it yet. And I was like, oh no. And then a second message showed up, and I was like, oh no. So, but she's not here today, so it's her fault.
I got that book, Computer Science Still. Oh, yeah. It's a good book. I am getting close to my...
It wasn't like... It wasn't like all of it. Sure. Yeah. We'll buy the conversation.
I wonder if like I don't know if you or Austin or like somebody can like just so I'll just and there's like 100 ways to do stuff, and part of what I'm trying to do is figure out professional ways to do stuff. Like, well, some score system, like I know it's super usable if I set it up the right way. No, like I just always I was for a while trying to go really and I got kind of like really that's someone I was like right. Honestly, I like it. Also, those things I go like get a use them. I don't. It's just figuring out that I can Yeah, I joined and then having done, I guess,
I'm also at the beginning of it, like, yeah, forgive me for the previous of my slides. I worked my job. If you want to find out What is Acer using Microsoft side?
This is, there's nothing mixed reality about this headset. It's called the Acer Mixed Reality headset. It's also like apparently the cheapest headset. However, it is good enough.
Well, I mean, when Microsoft first came out of that, it had one good standout feature, which was its top size was
everything is shaky.
How much time did you spend working on Warframe?
A year. I left. The last thing I was working on was and I left.
Like us, we're the best. Maybe someday.
I haven't played it in a few years, but I just applied to Digital Extremes recently, so hopefully that goes well.
Do you want to sell it already?
So two things. Fair warning. Don't trust their HR and anything about immigration.
Okay.
And second of all, for live mics is going to be fun. And second of all, I don't know about other teams, at least the team I was on, there was no communication between me and my manager.
Okay.
So, fair warning, they're not the worst studio I've worked at. They're not the best studio I've worked at. They are a studio. It's probably a good way to get, I assume it's going to be your first game now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good way to get your foot in the door. But just be aware that it's not necessarily the best environment.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Well, actually, first up, the one thing I'll warn you about, and they'll probably tell you about this as well, the problem with me was I was like around the cusp of like the fast visa lane versus slow visa lane.
Yeah.
You'll probably have to go through the slow visa lane. That can take like up to 3 months to get your visa. So that means you're working as a contractor for 3 months. It's not terrible, not great, but it means they don't provide stuff like that. Things like that. You'll probably want to cover that on your own in the last couple of months.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Well, I am really thinking about that. This is my experience in training. That's the door in the room. And walk in the room, and then part of it is straight up.
So after she got back, she ended up finding like 4 miles of
I also somehow I occasionally go to work here. Maybe Eastern's right. Maybe Eastern's right. Maybe they know. Maybe they know more than me. Jeez. Oh shoot, Nathan messaged me. Oh hey, you missed game night. Also, we're still hiring. Shoot. Nathan. Okay. Well darn it. That explains. Let me read these now. Oh shoot, it was game night. Shit. I'll just message Rayanne and tell her that it's her fault. I don't know how it'll be her fault if you blame her. I will also share that you're hiring, Nathan. Thank you for sending me that. Plan projects? Like pre-production. Pre-production, yeah. Real studios occasionally do that. We use ClickUp. We use ClickUp, which is it's like a Trello, time management, Asana, like all that whole 9 yards rolled into one. We mostly use it because it was the cheapest one, and I messaged the CEO and I was like, yo, I don't want to pay for the first year, and he was like, okay. I sent the message out, I was like, hey, I see this new software, I don't want to pay for it, and I want to use it. And they were like, done. And I was like, awesome. Yes.
He's like, you drive a hard bargain.
Yeah. I was like, I have like 7 people, and I don't want to pay for it. Does this work? And they were like, sure. And for a year they gave it to me for free, so now I just use them. I think I pay like $280 a year for like 7 to 10 people. It's not bad. But yeah, I got it for free for a year, so I'm like, I gotta use them now. Like, if I cancel, I'm just a bad guy.
We currently have 0 for the stuff that we're working on the side.
Yeah.
Like, now people more happy to pay for it eventually.
I honestly messaged him. I did the same thing with Notion. I messaged Notion and I was like, yo, you have a startup plan that allows me to not pay to get credits, but I made a mistake and I started my account and started paying you, and I think paying you is a mistake. Can I get it for free? And they were like, yeah, sure. And they just gave me a new account and transferred my stuff, and I was like, woo!
Well, I might talk to Margarita.
I'm sorry, are we ready?
Yeah, anytime.
Okay.
Yeah, send you the 2 videos. Little video, audio video too.
Okay, Discord? Perfect.
How do you want to do the audio?
Nathan, the link you sent me doesn't work, but I'll get there. I promise. I'll find it.
You want to do the audio?
The audio, I'm going to hot swap and give him the thing, and I'm going to share the links to the videos to Twitch, because Twitch won't get it. They won't be able to see it. That's the thing. So, it's going to be a nightmare. I found it, Nathan.
Not many people are on the Twitch.
I know, but there's still a few.
Tell them to get into the Discord.
There's that few of us all that.
Yeah. I'm going to make an announcement, though, right after you're done.
Okay, gotcha.
So.
Wait, you want to make an announcement?
Yeah, right after we quiet everybody down, I'm going to make a quick announcement, and we're good to go.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let's come on back.
Share your screen, and then I'm going to immediately cover it.
It's like super fancy Google Slides default format.
Yes, I do.
I need to grab my stuff.
It's okay. I share the, I use the Kettering thing at Eastern right now because I didn't take the time to change it.
All right. Corbin, go for it.
Hi, everybody. I have an announcement today. So I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to represent Stardock for a minute. Imagine for a moment, I'm with Stardock. Stardock is currently hiring for a few different positions. Specifically, they are hiring for 3D artist, art director, associate 3D generalist, associate game designer, which could be a great entry-level position for anybody looking to be a game designer.
I applied last month. I haven't gotten anything yet.
I know Rayanne, and I can give you her cell phone number. You can just bother her. No, that's a horrible idea.
Can you look at my application?
She prefers phone calls middle of the night. Especially for work-related things. 3 a.m. The associate game developer for C++ is something that Nathan and his team's actively hiring for, something you should seriously look into. as well as a senior game developer in the engineering department. So if you think you'd fit either of those roles, they are actively interviewing and looking for people and talent of all kinds. So make sure that you apply. You can find it at stardock.com/careers with an S. That's the announcement.
All right, I believe we're ready to go. If we cut off your networking, don't worry, we'll have time for that at the end. We usually go get food not too long after we finish up here. You can keep talking, we'll stick around here for a while as well. You have another thing?
I have an amendment to my final statement.
Go for it.
I said they were hiring a singular associate game developer. That is incorrect. They have room for one more additional, it seems. So that looks like it's a good opportunity available.
Excellent. Very good. All right, so tonight we have a really awesome guest, Matthew Stone. Matthew has been at quite a few places in the industry. Like we said earlier, he has spent time, he helped launch Halo Infinite. He's worked on Warframe, not too far from here, and he's currently working on Elder Scrolls Online. Matthew was one of Jeremy and I's earlier students when we were at U of M. He is a Wolverine alum. Actually was the president of Wolverine Soft for a year, correct?
Yep.
And he is currently in the midst of an entrepreneurial push. He wants to start his own studio. He has some really interesting ideas for game development platforms and gaming platforms. And he's a current student at the School of Business here at the University of Michigan. So I cannot wait to hear what he has to say. Thank you so much for driving 3 hours to come out and talk to us, Matt. Thank you so much.
Horrible idea.
I like that as the intro to the opening. Coleman's got a horrible idea. Sounds like
it didn't work.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Austin. Yeah, as Austin mentioned, I'm from this area. I studied at U of M, was the Wolverine Soft president for a year, and I'm very interested in games. Also, I'd like to mention it first, I was on a first team in high school, 2337 on a Grand Blank. So, strong connections there. So yeah, jumping straight in, what I want to talk about today is studio and team culture, because it is a thing that is very important that many people ignore. And you will hear a lot of stories about this getting ignored as we go on. So just kind of highlights what we're going to start off with. Why culture matters, a framework for understanding culture that actually pulled from MBA's slides, which is actually a really useful tool to like know how you can look at culture and actually think about it systemically. And then an example running through of we are a studio, what do we do about these things? So, first of all, introduction of who I am. So yeah, as was mentioned, I got my BSc in computer engineering at U of M, graduated in 2016, went to Carnegie Mellon, got my master's in entertainment technology in 2018, and I'm currently studying my MBA at U of M, hoping to graduate next year. And then on the right side is all the game credits of what I worked on. So I worked on Halo Infinite, worked on 4 updates of Digital Extremes. I'm currently working at ZeniMax Online. One of my content updates has launched. There are another couple in the pipeline that I'm excited to see it out. And if anybody's played High Isle and done like the solo dailies where you go into the dells, that was all my content. So yeah, let's jump into the actual topic of this conversation, which is what is culture? The real big thing about it is just trying to lay down an agreed upon way of acting. Anytime you have more than one person working together, you need to define a lot of that stuff. And you're going to think like, it just happens, it just naturally happens. It doesn't really. Usually what happens is really great. But really what you want to find, you want to find the way people behave and perform, and how you're actually going to look at them and evaluate whether or not they're working for the good of the team or not for the good of the team. And one of the really important parts is how your group handles conflict. There will be conflict in any team. Anybody here who thinks, I'm working with my best friend, we'll never disagree. You are wrong. You will disagree all the time, and you will wonder every day, why did I start this thing? So kind of lean into that. This is the first video. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
We're trying to get the audio situation worked out here right now.
We got a game plan, and it's probably gonna work.
Adapt, improvise, overcome.
All right, if you're on the Twitch stream, this may or may not break everything. Good luck. Here you go.
Yeah.
Moment before disaster.
Anarchy.
See if this even works.
And it broke everything. All right.
I don't think it even works.
Matt, while you're plugging in, are you going to share these slides with us?
I can afterwards, yeah. There's nothing like super confidential. Yeah, let's just do this.
Sounds good.
Okay.
You plug it in, I'll run it through the screen, and then I'll just blast my audio as loud as I can.
I love that idea. Then we're gonna need 30 seconds because everything's broken.
Eventually we'll make it work, right?
Teamwork.
Yeah, I think this actually might have been even before like USB 3.
Oh no.
That's how old this laptop is.
Okay, let's see.
Okay. So I will apologize for probably the very quiet audio. Assuming it even plays. Or just skips to the end. Thank you. There we go.
Well, I'm a simple man with simple understanding. My hammer.
I believe in that. If I can't hold it in my hand, I don't believe in it.
Well, what about the laws of thermodynamics?
Ah, my hand!
For the second video, I can
That
share
was
it on my
elegant
screen.
proof, thank you. Y'all got some ice I can believe in.
What'd you say, Corbin?
For your second video, I can share it on the screen up here.
Okay.
Well, I'm
Let's see if I can actually get my thing back now. There we go. You can tell this laptop is old. It does not like to work. So really the main point of that is culture is all about trying to take the things that you assume are just there and ethereal and actually trying to make them concrete. Trying to make sure that you actually understand how you work together as a group, what you're actually going to be valuing, what you're going to be looking for, and not just assuming that, oh, me and Johnny, when we work together, how we work together is going to be what it is. So that's going to come with a lot of pitfalls as well as some good points to it. So, why does culture matter? As I just pointed out, culture always exists. Anytime there's 2 or 3 or even more people together, anytime there's more than one person together, there's going to be a culture that forms. There's going to be in-jokes, there's going to be agreement on what you're trying to go after, there's going to be disagreement on what you're trying to go after, and it will always be there. And really, you have one choice when it comes to culture. Are you going to let it be intentional? Or are you going to let it be accidental? You really have no other choice. It will happen. It's just which path you want to go down. And if you only go down accidental, it's going to be built through a series of decisions that you probably don't even realize that you're making. Who's getting promoted? Who's getting treated the best in the company? If you just promote like your friends, you are promoting a culture of get to know the guy who makes the promotion decisions. If you just promote the people who like talk in front of the team all the time, you're saying, hey, I only promote the people that speak the loudest, speak the most. That's what you're building up towards. And it can cause a lot of core issues to a team. And you won't even be aware of it until you're already at the far end of the path, looking back and saying, how did we get here? Oh, it's because a bunch of these decisions that I didn't make were made for me. But intentional. You can build it to highlight your strengths. What does your team do best? How do they do it best? And how do you want to work going forward? And it also gives you really clear metrics so that everyone on your team knows what they're doing when they're evaluating a decision, especially in hiring and firing and raises. If you, for example, have a value of teamwork and collaboration, you know that you're looking for who on the team works the best, who does everybody point to and say, that's somebody I want to work with. Those are the things that you can look at when you're saying, hey, I want to bring that person up to a software engineer too, or I want to make them a manager. And this is a model that actually I'm pulling from my MBA studies that is actually a really good way to kind of understand how do you look at this and how do you understand that culture is built. And it's really built from this core of assumptions, which is as a team, how do you assume you're going to work? What do you things that you assume are going to be what you want to do? And from that, it builds out into norms of how does your team actually work together? What kind of things do you value? How do you communicate? Is it all really hostile, aggressive? Is it all, I don't want to rub somebody the wrong way, I don't want to rock the boat, so I just want to talk about things? That then builds into rituals, the things that you as a team do time and time again that try to build towards what you want to be or build towards things that you didn't realize you were going to be. And then from that, you build up to heroes. Who are the people that are best exemplifying what you want from everybody on your team? And this can be somebody who's not on the team, who's on the team. And then finally, symbols, the things around your actual work environment that are indicating how your culture is meant to be. And I'll dive a little bit more into each of these as well as provide some examples in a second. So kind of start from the very beginning, the values and assumptions. See when it goes back on screen. There we go. So yeah, your values, they're built on a core set of beliefs. What are you as a team trying to do? What do you value? What do you not value? It highlights the lenses through all actions should be evaluated by. So when you're trying to look at how somebody behaves, how a decision was made, you need to have an agreed upon set of lenses to say this, like for example, if we had a set of lenses that said teamwork is always our number one thing. If you look at it and say, well, somebody just forced through a decision, didn't take the team into consideration, didn't ask anybody's opinion, you know that then that's a bad decision based on your values. And the other thing is these values need to be actionable. Just having a set of values that you look at and say, well, we mentioned we wanted green. What does green mean? How do you get green? If you just say we want to do that, that doesn't actually mean anything. I need to know how to actually look at it and say, this actually matches what our values were, this doesn't match what our values are. And if it's ambiguous, then you probably made a bad value. And from that goes into rituals. So it's events that reflect and build on your values, and remind your whole team what you value and why. So if we all remember like the classic office situation you'll see anywhere, you'll always see like
the employee of the month. Like that's a ritual you will do here. It's like every month we're gonna stand up, reward the person who did the thing, maybe give them like a small gift certificate, put them on the wall. That's a ritual you'll do pretty frequently. Or if you work on a tech team, a sync, where you're staying up all together a couple times a week. That's a ritual you would do that's really trying to enforce the value of we as a team work together, we share information, and we work together to solve a problem. And from that it goes to your heroes. People that encapsulate your values and role models that people can use as a guide. You're trying to give somebody a measuring stick that they can look at and say, am I measuring up to that person or am I not? In this case, Commander Shepard. Like, is your hero the good Commander Shepard? Is that what people should be looking at? Or is it the bad Shepard? Is that what people should be looking at and trying to evaluate how their decisions are? And then finally leads into symbols. Like I mentioned, physical reminders and reflections of your values. An example here is actually a 3-for-3. We had a whole quarter of one of our floors that was dedicated to the Halo Museum.
Wow.
Which was meant to be like every piece of memorabilia they could find or dig up. At one point, I think we had some YouTube group make a gravity hammer. They sent it to us, and like the next day, that was up in the museum. But you can see we've got like full-size Chief. I don't know if it's in here, but we at one point had this giant table that was just a giant mega blocks built up as if you were a commander overseeing like a ship battle. At one point, they also had like a Halo Fort Unto Dawn like sleep chamber in the back that they had to be very clear nobody was to go into because you would get locked in it. But it's meant to be daily reminders of what you value as a company. So also an example of this as well could be like that board of employee of the month. Like that's a symbol that you can always look at every day and say, these are the people who were up there. I can know what they were doing there. And we can see that we recognize these people who performed the best as a team. So now we'll run through an example. We are 686 Industries. We're a AA studio with one title in post-launch support and another in production. And we invest heavily in our design team and survive off innovation. So we're going to take this through and actually run it through that format and say, what potentially could this be in each area? So some examples of what I put for values is gameplay first, because they're meant to be a design-first studio. Gameplay design leads all our division, and design needs trump others. Ideas come from anywhere. Anybody can propose ideas to a lead to improve their project, and everyone talks. In all meetings, everyone must say something. Does anybody have other values they think might be able to fit into this? Yep.
Everyone must give at least one idea about somebody else's idea.
Yeah, that's a good value. Okay.
Lots of iteration.
Lots of iteration. Yeah, that's really good, especially when you're design first. There's so many times when you start off with the first thing you do, and it's just like, man, this is not fun. Or you get something back from a team, and it's like, wow, this is broken. Let's try to fix that. And I can't tell you the amount of times that comes up. And the other thing about values is that it's very important you do them. It's very important you do them with the team. I can't tell you the number of studios that don't put into values. Of the 3 studios I worked at, I can tell you one value from one, and I can tell you as many times that we broke that value as we did actually follow that value. So it's important that you have them, but it's also important that you follow through on them. Because especially your team, your lower level ICs, they'll know when those values aren't being followed. They'll see the decisions that are getting made when a lead says, hey, we're gameplay first, but then the art lead comes over and says, hey, we have to dismantle this entire gameplay thing because I want to put a giant rock here. And they'll see that and feel that. So example rituals. Design document review sessions. Regular meetings of full project teams where design leadership presents decisions made and new documents are compiled. So it just kind of shows off the team of like, hey, we're a design first team. This is what design's saying we want to go after. We're trying to share that with everybody. It's a moment for everybody to kind of share their opinions. A yearly game jam. 1 week every year, any employee can explore any idea in the studio that they want to do. I've seen a lot of teams try to pull that off, and many of them abandon it. Not necessarily because it's not a good idea, but it's more so because they're not willing to invest in it. Because when you talk to like somebody who's like a mid-level manager and you say, hey, what if we just let our $1 million team take a week off and do something that's potentially worth nothing? A lot of them look at you and say, what are you saying? Even though it's important for innovation. And then maybe pre-meeting improv warm-ups. Every meeting you have somebody stand up and do an improv game, which is actually right. And also, nobody does improv here. It's a great thing to do. Yes. Actually, funny enough, for the Carnegie Mellon MET, for the first semester, which is like the welcome semester, the welcome semester, they make you take an improv class because they realize that for teams, the ability to yes and do improv, like pick up those fundamentals, is wildly important. So I do recommend picking up improv if you want to be a good teammate. Anybody else have examples of rituals that maybe their teams have done, or of things that maybe might be able to fit into this kind of example?
Sure, Frog Design had a fantastic ritual, which is called coffee time. At 5 o'clock every day, wherever you were in the world, you just left your desk and went to the main kind of like, coffee room and just hung out with people for 15 minutes. Every Friday, an employee was selected kind of like a week before and was given like $100 to go do something special for people during coffee time. So, it could be just, getting cupcakes or something more interesting, but it was really fun. So, and more technical problems got solved in those 15 minutes than pretty much the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's amazing how much just giving your teams moments to talk to each other that isn't about work makes work go so much smoother. Because they introduce you to people, get you to know how they work best, how they think, and just kind of gets you into a better rhythm, which has been interesting in COVID times. Because I've now worked at 2 studios, only remote, and they tend to struggle at it. Because one of the problems, as I mentioned, being intentional versus accidental, you'll typically find a lot of game leads are not super intentional. And it's not necessarily they don't want to be, it's just that they were picked because they worked on a bunch of projects, not necessarily because they were a great manager. That's fundamentally the way the industry's always kind of geared towards. Any other suggestions of potential rituals or ideas?
We do weekly playtests where we pull everybody together to playtest the latest build of everything, even if it's really, really broken, or just in the foundational stages. We're like, you can do like 2 things, but do it.
Yeah, weekly playtests are great. I worked at one team that tried to do that, and then I think we had a span of 6 months where we had no playtest. It happens, it sucks, but it also is a warning sign of telling you, hey, we have a fundamental failing, we can't meet our weekly playtest 99% of the time, we need to fix that.
For the Wolverine Soft Studio, we do something called designer breakouts at least a few times a semester where every non-designer goes to the designer's thing they're working on, tells them what they're doing, and that gives them a chance to ask questions, get clarification, and keeps designer informed of what's going on.
Jeremy, you have another one?
Sure. At Respawn, when they were working on Titanfall 2, had this really great system early on where they had these basically pods of 3 people. You'd have a designer and a coder and an artist. And they'd just come up with something crazy they could do in Engine over a couple of weeks, and then they'd present playtests to each other. And it really spawned a lot of super cool ideas, like the level that was built around you as you were going through it, and the time travel, both of those came out of that.
Yeah, it's always amazing how just like giving your designers time to make something. I think any developer time to make something is really impressive. At one studio I worked at, tried that a couple times before I got there. They didn't end up using like any of their stuff. I think it was more so a leadership problem than just we didn't get anything cool out of it. But the one really cool thing that they did get out of it was they put character pictures all across all our walls, so it actually felt like we weren't just in an office building in the middle of this mall area. Which also, I don't know why game developers like to be next to malls. Happens all the time. But it's like, no, this is actually our place. We can see our characters. We can be in a really cool spot. I think you raised your hand up, right?
Yeah. One thing I remember hearing about was the team at Sunset Overdrive. The team on Sunset Overdrive had weekly movie nights, so that way they could all like reference the same things. Like if something, they want something to feel like this thing from Scott Pilgrim, they've all seen Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, had somebody go through recently talking about like putting design docs together. It's like, it always is best to give an example of like what are you going for.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, now I have a serious problem because I can't connect with like younger designers. So I'll say like, yeah, it's like the Breakfast Club, and they'll be like, I haven't seen that. Can you like give me more of an explanation of what you mean by that? Yeah.
Monthly team retrospectives where you look at the past month and say like what went well, what maybe could have gone better. Are there any like issues and challenges that are kind of be learning and try and think of solutions or just voice concerns and stuff like that?
Yeah, always taking those moments as a team and saying, what happened recently? And looking back rather than just looking forward is always a great way to kind of figure out how you can make the forward go smoothly. Any other? Cool. Then we'll move on to the next step. So next step out of that is heroes. As a group, they might have thought like Steve Jobs, because he was developing products without a market focus on market research. Usually, he's like, if you go talk to somebody and you ask them like, or you ask somebody in horse and buggy days, what do they want? They would just tell you a faster horse, rather than a car. And that's always his thing. But the other thing about him is that he always thought to be right, but he didn't always think he was right. So there were times in meetings that he would be challenged by somebody, and after the meeting, he would go and sit down with them for hours until he like understood what they meant, and then was able to get on board if it was a good idea or not get on board. And it could also be somebody just in your company, like John in engineering. Like he led a company-wide effort for the last 2-week long game jams, so he's like participating in stuff. And it's important that you just give people somebody they can understand and approach. And a lot of times if it's closer to where they are, it's a lot easier to understand who that person is, what their relationship is, how they interact with that stuff, rather than a very abstract person. Because especially when you go like super CEOs, it's like there's so much about them that you could be talking about any single part of their life, and some of it's good, and some of it's terrible. So you always got to be kind of selective of who you pick. Any other examples of heroes that people have had, or stuff that companies have pointed out? Yep.
I'd say that like a programming hero would be like John Carmack. I mean, like the innovations that you created to create 3D gaming is just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing about this as well is this kind of onion example of how you like look at a culture and kind of break it down. Also kind of applies within companies, like even within departments of companies. So like an overall company might have a vision of this is what we're trying to be, and the engineering team might have a very specific vision of what are they trying to do with an engineering team, and they can pull a lot of these same elements, maybe like a smaller scale. You don't have to like now get the entire company involved, just get like your 20 engineers. But it's important to understand how those kind of interact with each other, how they feed down. Okay. And example symbols. So you might have like digital monitors constantly cycling design flows for a project, trying to show people like what are you working on. Other important thing is if you're going to do that, make sure that you're like at least close to your final pillars. Don't spend a bunch of money putting up a bunch of signs and then decide like 3 months later, oh no, that's no longer our pillars. These are our pillars. Sure. For example, you got also a big counter of time since last playtest, so everybody knows like, oh, this team hasn't playtested in a month. What's going on there? We need to look at that. And then also like meeting flip cards to track employee participation. So maybe in a meeting you have like a card that when somebody says something, they can flip it over to indicate, I guess I've spoken in this meeting. So you know who isn't speaking, and you can kind of, not target, but invite them into the conversation. Another interesting thing about a symbol is, I assume everybody here knows Walmart. I haven't been able to verify this because this might have gone away, but at least a long time ago, one of my MBA professors was telling me that when you actually went into their headquarters, like the corporate headquarters, you could tell it was Walmart because you would think it's a fancy corporate building that have like a bunch of executive couches, a bunch of like really expensive furniture. No, their building was full of sample furniture that they would get from their manufacturers. And they would use that because they were so focused on cutting costs. They didn't want to spend extra money on their executive furniture. They would just pull the samples and set them up in every executive room. When you needed a chair, cool. We got this like small little chair that we got from this manufacturer in China. We'll just put it over here. Yep.
This reminds me of in I think 2015 I was up in Andrew Wilson's office, who's the CEO of EA and still is. And at the time, I think EA had just been named like the worst company in America or something. And right outside Andrew's office was a huge screen covering the entire wall, and it was just a continuous live stream of all the player like support messages coming through and reviews coming through, like saying why EA is stinky.
Wow.
And he was trying to fix that. So. But it's interesting.
Well, I'll also mention on this, one thing that's really interesting about this as well is having symbols for your culture, but also having symbols for your process. I'm actually going through residency preparation for things with my MBA. But the interest is a really interesting tool that I'm currently going through the process of trying to figure out like how does this best apply to games. But it's called a rapid plant assessment. And the idea is this guy got this idea. He was a former UM professor. He got this idea when he was the CEO of like a tractor company. Or it was either tractor like automotive parts anyway. Some Japanese business people were coming over to inspect the plant because they were eventually going to get a partnership. And they went through it in an hour. They gave him an almost exactly accurate estimate of their cost of sales just from walking the plant for an hour. So we developed this entire process of here's everything you look at, here's how you kind of define these values. And he was like, yeah, if you do this, you can get like within about 10 to 15% if you do it properly. But one of the most important things he pulls up is there has to be a visual tracker for how work is going, because if there is not, people will not understand it. Because we are a visual species, you have to have it somewhere that people can see what it is. If it's just being tracked in a spreadsheet somewhere, it's a fail because nobody's going to look at that. Nobody's going to know that. To the point where he went through and did this process somewhere, and he had I think it was a maintenance person come up and complain to him because he was getting a bunch of complaints because he made this board of visually tracking the downtime of machines. And he was like, yeah, people are coming to complain because 70% of the machines are down. And he was like, yeah, but was it different before we had this? Well, no, but now people can see that they're down all this time. That's a problem. So it's really important to have those things in front of people so they can actually see what the current state is. and understand how different teams interact. Because if it's, like I said, it's just hidden away, nobody knows it outside the privileged few who have to know about it. And even then, they probably forget about it and don't understand the implications. So the other important thing to talk about is cool cultures. This is actually a photo from, I think it's from Google's campus. They had a rock wall in one of the buildings. And I can tell you, coming from a tech company that had a cool culture, this is very much a trap to be aware of. Because just because a company you're looking at has a cool rock wall, doesn't mean a lot of the other stuff that needs to be done to get to that point where cool culture works is being done. So stuff like having periodic reviews, having good management, having like systematic grades, systems like that, that might not be being done. And that means that while cool, you can go climb a rock wall, you have to go back to your office at some point and deal with the 7 other hours of, oh my god, my manager doesn't talk to me, I'm not getting paid properly, and all those kind of concerns, which is not a great thing. And also, game companies fall into this all the time. Because as I said, people think of that really cool museum. Doesn't mean everything else is going great, but we have this really cool museum. Like I just said, just be careful of it. It's a trap, and it can even cover up issues more so than even expose good issues. And then I have a final video kind of hinting at that.
Do you want me to just share the video?
Sure, if you can.
Yeah, let me do that. We shouldn't get lag.
Does the audio work?
Has your house been ruined by a home improvement show? I told them I like cars, so they put hubcaps on my walls. Hubcaps on my walls. They said it was funky.
I told them that Christmas was my favorite time of year, so they put Christmas lights everywhere. Everywhere! They put them in the toilet. And I don't mean the bathroom, I mean the toilet. I pee on them, and they spark. Is that safe?
We told them family was the most important thing in our life, so they filled our house with replicas of our family. It's deeply unsettling. I haven't slept in weeks.
My wife is Chinese. My house is now impossibly racist. My in-laws overall have to get a divorce. That happens every 30 seconds.
Going to HGTV this fall. Unfuck this house.
They fucked my house.
They fucked my house. My house? Fucked. Unfuck this house. We'll make it fine.
Yeah. And it just a reminder that things you think are cool aren't necessarily cool taken to an extreme, and it's better to have an okay culture that you can work with and live with, rather than a really cool culture where everything else is broken. I don't skip past this. There we go. So yeah, so we covered about why culture matters, a general framework for understanding how cultures kind of build on each other and how each part kind of interacts, and then we ran through an example of it. And there's one other saying that I'll mention, which people might have heard. It's something that a lot of leaders like to talk about but don't really understand, which is culture eats strategy for breakfast. If you have a strategy for what you want to go after, so what your company's trying to do, so let's say, for example, you're trying to go after making a super competitive, sweaty multiplayer game, but your entire culture is built around, like, friendship and all these kind of shared features, like being really soft and friendly, like, that probably doesn't mesh very well. You're probably not hiring the people who understand and really develop those kind of really sweaty and competitive environments. So be aware that to have the strategy, to achieve the strategy you want to achieve, you need to know what your culture is and build towards that as well. And if they mismatch, culture's going to win every single time. Cool. Any question? One thing I'll mention, I've kind of hinted around it for a lot of stuff. I haven't mentioned specifics outside of the Halo Museum because it's a cool thing. NDAs in the industry are a thing. I like working in this industry. So a lot of stuff I talk about, I will try to abstract a little bit. If you want like more juicy details, find me somewhere where I'm not being recorded in front of a bunch of people, and we can probably talk a little bit. Yep.
Without telling us what studio you were at the time, can you describe your favorite bug that you've seen?
There's so many bugs. I will mention. So I got pretty lucky at 3 for 3. One of my friends was a QA tester, had been there for like decades, so he showed me all sorts of bugs. It's not really a big surprise to talk about this. Like one of the ones was there was an issue because when you see like a phantom fly off in a Halo game, it's not flying off. It is just shrinking to infinity and then disappearing. And it caused a problem where after the AI jumped off the phantom, there was like something still connecting to the phantom. So the phantom would fly off, and then you would just see these really tiny elites run around with these giant guns. So shoot at you, you're like, where am I getting shot from?
That's awesome.
Yeah, there are a lot of good fun stories. People usually collect bugs like that for like an end of the release demo. Those are always fun to see internally.
Cultural change. Have you ever seen it? Is it possible?
So it's possible, but it requires typically a lot of really directed, really hard work. Like one of the things you kind of have to realize, especially if you're trying to do an entire culture overhaul, is it means some people probably won't stick around. And that means either you have to let them go or they need to choose to leave on their own. And if it's really the culture you're going for and you really think that's the right direction, sometimes you have to let people go. That's the reality of the situation. If you keep somebody around who is a good fit for the culture, especially if they're at a high level, you will have a fundamental clash, and one of the two is going to win. You're just hoping it's the culture you're trying to build and not the person who doesn't mesh with that.
So, values are an intentional thing. You talked about assumptions under values and building values on assumptions, but there's also a separate thing that the values are built upon very intentionally, particularly with larger companies. I was at EA when Riccatello shifted our values from something that we all understood to some other bullshit that we remember, right? So is there a term for that? For like basically, it's kind of like, you know, if you're a publicly traded company, it's like, okay, well, really, we say we care about our people, but really we got to give our investors and stockholders money. You know, like.
I mean, there's not a specific term I can think of. The main term I think of is like being two-faced.
Okay. Yeah.
But there is that reality of every publicly traded company has to realize that there's a point where shareholder value becomes a serious thing you have to work with. And I would hope and push for your value shouldn't necessarily be directly like increase shareholder value, but they should be things that naturally increase shareholder value over time. And if you aren't doing that, that's a fundamental question you look at, and it might be a question of we need to find a new strategy going forward, and then we need to match the culture to where our strategy is going to be. And that's unfortunately the reality of the situation, because if it's like I said, we're all super sweaty, we're all going to super competitive MP, and that game just doesn't work. There's a lot of changes and switches that are going to happen because you might have hired a bunch of really sweaty like MP designers who are like super into that stuff, and if you're not going a different direction, they might no longer be the right fit. Yep.
You said you worked remotely at a couple of these studios. How do you stay on task and motivated while you're doing that?
It's difficult. I think the way that works best is usually finding the way that you work best, trying to make that work. Like one thing I found about myself is I work really well when I know what the next handoff point is and why I'm trying to get to that point. So like, there have been times where I'll work on an update and it'll be like, level design's not going to come onto it for like 2 months, and writing's not going to come onto it for a while anyway. So I kind of get to the point of like, well, then I have a lot of leeway time because I don't have to get it done until they're ready to jump on it. So I end up having to kind of push myself a little bit more, be a little bit more proactive that way. But a lot of times if it's like, well, no, this guy needs to get on it tomorrow, it's like, okay, cool, I can pop that all out and get that done. So it's a lot of just finding the way that you work, and in some cases talking to your manager and trying to be like, this is the way I work best, can we find ways to make that more likely? So it might be a situation of, like for example with that, if I like really need somebody to follow me up to help me keep motivated, maybe it might be a thing of whatever I work on, maybe it needs to be pushed out the priority layer a little bit, and people who can be more self-directed, maybe that comes down a little bit. So it's kind of a relationship with yourself and also with your manager, and the people who like give you your work to try to find what works best. Which is also very hard in a remote company because sometimes your manager doesn't talk to you for months on end, and sometimes you have to try to push them to talk to you, and other companies are good about, well, no, we're going to talk every week or every 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Yep.
Piggybacking off that question, was there a studio that you worked at where it went from in-person to remote, or vice versa?
So I worked
what
at
is the difference in culture between those two?
So I worked at 343 leading into going remote. 343, I think 343 going remote was a little bit easier because like I'd already met people and worked with most of my team for about 2 years at that point. So I know who they are, I know how they work, I know the dumb in jokes. We could talk pretty well. And that wasn't terrible. There were a lot of problems with like, well, it just meant we don't talk release as much anymore. We're just getting like random emails. When you're fully remote, you have to be very intentional in trying to find those connections. Like on my current job, I'm really close with another guy who started about the same time I did, and the way that we've gotten that connection is just we talk every week. We are one of the few designers that will go to this optional conversation. It's just we'll just talk for a half an hour every week, and we've gotten pretty close. I know you were clapping if you're going for a fly.
Hey, there's a fly.
Yeah.
It was right in my face.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Conveying culture, like documents, meetings, videos. If you had to pick 3 things that you think are most effective over those 3, if you had to.
Well, I mean, so one of the first things you should be doing, it depends on the state of your company. If you are a brand new company, one of the first things you should be doing is working with everybody who's involved and trying to figure out what those values are. Everybody should have the ability to kind of input a little bit with the goal of if people put in a little bit, they're more willing to lean into it, more willing to work with it. And if you are a company that's already been formed, you should be hiring based off those values. There's actually a saying from a professor of mine that I really appreciate, which is hire for diversity in everything except values. So like if one of your values is teamwork and somebody comes in and says, well, no, I like to work on my own in a room with all the lights off for 8 hours a day and that's how I work, they might not be a great fit. But there might be people who can bring in like the same diversity of thought, the same diversity of opinion, but aren't going to trap themselves in a room for 8 hours a day. So really kind of finding those kind of things. Outside of that, I haven't had a whole bunch of great luck with trying to get much stuff working. I will say one of the things is just if you're going to do a ritual, just do it. I'm trying to get them started. One thing I'm working on the side, we were having some issues getting some stuff going, and one thing I've been wanting to do for a while was the idea of doing jam weeks, which is we take a week, we hammer out what we're trying to do. It was like, cool, this is a great moment for us to build a cultural moment, get everybody involved, which everybody was super into doing, and start building that culture. So let's just take this moment where we need it, let's invest in this cultural moment, and then we'll move on back to what we were doing before, and still kind of be able to ingrain that into everything that we do going forward. So finding those moments of like having those good, strong impacts of what you want to put in your culture. Meetings don't really work. I would say if you're going to do meetings with your leads and have your leads carry that down, because well, culture shouldn't be a top-down thing. If you are able to do that alongside a bottom-up approach, it helps a lot. Where if you have a manager kind of pushing all those cultural values, and also reverse, if you have a lead who goes against those values, it's very good at destroying a culture. So it's kind of, I would say, do a dual approach of top up, bottom down. Find those moments where you can introduce the culture, and then build the culture with everybody who's on the team, or hire towards the culture, depending on what your state of your company is. Yep.
You were talking about, I think symbols was the word you used, like the physical, like the Halo Museum. What is the remote analog of that?
The remote analog, that would probably be websites, and like if you have stuff like Jira tasks and things like that, find ways to embed what's interesting in Jira and stuff like that. Like my team currently uses Confluence. A lot of teams I've worked with have used Confluence. Like find ways to embed symbols of things into your Confluence. Like if you have a main page for your Confluence and you were doing like an employee of the month style thing, maybe put it there. If you're doing like an engineering team specifically thing, maybe put on like the engineering team, and like give a moment to do that. And maybe if you have an all-team meeting, like say, hey, open up the Confluence now. Randy's our engineer of the month, give him a round of applause and kind of introduce it that way. So there are ways to be intentional and kind of introduce it, but it does require you to kind of find non-physical, physical ways to introduce those symbols.
All right. Any questions?
Yeah. Do you have any recommendations on books that we could read without getting an MBA that can give us some more insight for this sort of stuff?
Into culture building or MBA stuff?
No, the culture building.
I don't think anything comes to mind off the top of my head. I've read a bunch of books. I can't think of a whole bunch in particular.
You could just post it on the Discord later.
Yeah, I can see if I can pull up some. Because the one that comes to my mind, I don't remember if it was very culture focused. There's a good book called Beyond Entrepreneurship. That was about. It was written by the guy who did Good to Great and like that whole series of books. And it was trying to do a pullback of okay, well, what actually makes a good entrepreneurial team, rather than just focusing on what makes a great company. Although. I've had some professors that I think make good points about that. Some of his research is kind of bullshit, but I think there's still some value in some of his highlights that he pulls out. Cool.
All right. Questions? Any final questions? I have a question. who has heard of the friend DA? Right, only a few people. So it was a term I first heard from Jordan H. Lowney of Volition. And essentially, it's the idea that, you know, one of the reasons you come to events like this in person is so that you can talk with people and you can get stories that maybe they can't always share publicly, or maybe, you know, they don't want to share when they're recording. I'm not saying Matt will do any of that. But what I am saying is that when we start networking in a few minutes, you should talk to Matt. You should talk to anyone doing cool stuff around here, because they got some awesome stories.
I was saying, well, I will give a piece of advice that I picked up from a friend of mine. If you ever go to GDC, go to the bars in the evenings. You'll find a lot of people who are a little bit lubricated, who
Jordan's in
talk
chat.
about some stuff that they probably should.
Discord, not Twitch.
Excellent.
So that's a good place to find some inside rumors.
Excellent. All right. Matthew, thank you so much.
Jordan, we need to get a beer again soon.
Okay, so do we have any, I'll ask one more time, do we have any community announcements? Anything that anyone wants to share or advertise or say?
Oh, Jesus, man. Well, I would
Yes.
like to ask, could there possibly be a monthly meeting where we talk about like networking and like building stuff for people looking for jobs in the industry?
So I think this is a pretty general purpose meetup, and we try and let you do pretty much whatever you want.
Okay.
You can definitely talk about networking. You can talk to any of our speakers, you know, meet the people around here, and converse in that way. I think if you ask the staff of IGDA Ann Arbor to create new recurring events, we'll be very timid about that, because we are very, very strapped for time as it is.
I love quarterly
But
events.
If you have suggestions, please DM us, because we are always looking to keep, you know, things improving and make sure this serves you.
Okay.
Any other community announcements, questions, comments? Yes?
I just wanted to say I'm an employee at Scopely in Los Angeles. If you're interested in the mobile space at all, I've been there for about 3 years, so I can talk to you about what that company is like, how to get in, or like I worked at other companies. I've been in LA for 8 years, so anyone interested in that area can come talk to me. I'm also going to demo a side project right now.
Excellent. Can you post a link to the Scopely's website in the IGA chat?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Anyone else? All right, so we'll probably take about 30 minutes or so. Please meet the people around you. If you forgot their name, like I do every single month, don't be afraid to just ask, okay? Ask what their name is. Otherwise, thank you all so much for coming. And I think in about 30 minutes, we'll probably head out for some food. Maybe Frita Batidos or something like that. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for everybody who joined us on Twitch and on Discord. I am going to close that.
One last thing. Managing the tech situation up here is very hard. So can we all give Corbin a hand, please?
It'd be easier if I took time to play.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Yes. We have a message from our friends over at Stardock, who says, "Hello, Scopely team." Nathan says hello from Stardock.
Can you get some music going, Corbin?
I can get some music going. Everybody who was with us on Discord and Twitch, thank you so much for joining us. I am going to end the screen share so I can start cleaning up a little bit of the tech. But thank you so much again for joining us this month, and I look forward to seeing you all again next month.